What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we return with Blake of Saul. Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me on here, man. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been I can't believe it's been over a year since we spoke at the Light the Torch show back in what was it, in May of 2019?
Yep, yes it was. Yeah, we sat in that little cafe and had that interview.
Yeah, that was a great time. And it was so convenient too to do an interview like so early in the day. I was like, "Oh, I don't have to do anything else. I could just go to the show now and not carry around my camera or anything."
Right. Yeah, it worked out really well.
Yeah, but it's so awesome to have you here. You have this new album, Rises Equals, coming out very soon. The first thing I was curious about actually is because you released the Aeons EP last year. Was that meant to kind of be like a good preview or a good representation of the direction that Saul is going in?
Possibly. Yeah, I would say definitely musically for sure. We didn't know necessarily that we were going to be, putting out an album, as soon as we did. Because before, we got signed with Spine Farm, we released the Eons EP, what's the word am I looking for?
Independently?
Yeah. So we released that independently, but, we were really working on our style at the time. So definitely when it comes to the album, we definitely transferred over that new style and maybe even, bridge the gap a little bit more even on the record.
Yeah, and I know that you did bring in some songs from that, such as The Toll and Brother, on this album as well. So, I think it is kind of like a good, that the Eons EP was kind of like the appetizer, if you will, right?
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, in terms of the making of Rises Equals, how did Rises Equals sort of come to be? Was there a preconceived idea in how you wanted this to sound, more or less? How did Rises Equals, see the light of day?
Really, we didn't go in with a single idea in mind. We really just tried to dive into each song and make each song as good as we possibly could. Because the album wasn't really conceptual or anything. It's really the title came from, and the title track came from, having to pay an ode and a dedication to our fans because they are, they're diehard and they're great people. So that's where that whole, the title and that title track came from. But as far as each song individually, we just try to give them each their own life and each the amount of love that you would for, what you think is going to be the radio single or anything. So each song we put, 100% into.
Yeah, well, it almost seems I really got a lot of different vibes from each track. I thought Trial by Fire had a very different, emotional feel than a song like Get It Right, or different from a song like Inside. So it's fair to say that there was many different emotions that were being felt through the course of the making of this album, right?
Absolutely. It's an accumulation of what we went through for the last year, and we really tried to put it down in, a fine pen on each song being that way, you know what I mean? Just like you said, Get It Right, this time I swear I'll get it right, is the call tag to the chorus. And, so each song we just had to, really comb through and make it personal.
Mm-hmm. Now, with the making of this, was there ever a time where lyrics or a subject matter maybe influenced the composition of the music?
For sure. King of Misery, we dove in, and it was lyric and melody based before anything else. It was just Zach and I and David Draiman of Disturbed, and it was just strumming a couple notes on an acoustic guitar, and then we just let the melody and lyric content flow, and that really is what sculpted the song.
Mm-hmm. And working with David Draiman as well, did that teach you new things as well? Because he's a genius in his own right.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, super genius. He just put the idea in my head that, heavy doesn't mean necessarily louder and growlier and, more screams. And, he lent the idea of lyrical content and vocal melody can be just as heavy. And a lot more times, if you have the melody and the lyric content in a certain way and you're not just belting it out, it's actually, it catches harder, you know what I mean? So he definitely lent that to us for sure.
Yeah, I love that he mentioned that, because just because something is heavy, it doesn't necessarily mean that there needs to be 200 BPM blast beats or like intense riffing. I feel like your music is very heavy and like an emotional standpoint.
Yes, yeah, and he felt that too, and then that's what he was. That's when he was saying, just dial back on how you're singing it. The approach, and let that carry the weight. So.
Yeah, and heavy is also very subjective. I've had people ask like, "Oh, is the music you listen to heavy like Creed?" So.
Right.
So heavy is totally subjective. I'm really glad that he brought that up. From what we're hearing on this album, because bands work on albums for a long extended period of time, is what we're hearing on this album how these songs were originally arranged and originally written, or did these songs change a lot over a span of time?
Well, we came in when we went in the studio. It's got to be right up there. I think the first song we did in the studio was "Don't Close Your Eyes," and then I think we went right into "Sticks and Stones" and then "Trial by Fire." And those songs all had, those songs definitely had a vibe to them. And and the songs, the song "Sticks and Stones," that was the funnest we had in the studio, just writing that song. It's heavy, saying exactly what we needed to say. As far as what you hear on the album, we did put it in an order that I think we felt was the most flowing.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know that, in terms of lyrics, because I know that "Brother" is a very personal song for you guys, but like, is it fair to say that like maybe lyrically you take inspiration from many different sources?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, each song is definitely from a personal experience, for sure. So, I mean, any of the songs, I can tell you exactly what, the song's about because it's happened. You know what I mean? Sticks and Stones, when we first got signed with Spine Farm, we thought, what we're friends, they got jealous or whatever, started talking mad on us, and so we wrote the song, for them, "Sticks and Stones," and then songs like "Don't Close Your Eyes," "My Big Fear of Drowning." So yeah, every song has its own thing, its own vibe and content.
Do you want the music to be open to interpretation, or do you try to maybe engage the listener to what you're singing about? Because I could tell just by reading the lyrics that you really do put a lot of heart and soul into it.
Yeah, I think everybody's got their own way that they're going to perceive the song. Which if anybody asks, I'll tell them exactly what I wrote the song for. But, if they have to use it in a certain way to, shine a certain light on something that's happening with them, I mean, it's definitely open for interpretation for sure.
Yeah, I think you have the best of both worlds, because like sometimes I've had a discussion with a lot of artists about this, that sometimes saying, "Oh, it's whatever you want it to be. It means whatever you want it to be," that sometimes like some would argue that that's kind of like a cop out for not explaining your work,
Right. No, I will dive in and even like, yeah, I can tell you each song specifically what it's about.
Mm-hmm. Do you find it maybe like the longer you're working on something, though, the harder it is to kind of like capture a moment in the music, or is that not really even something that you're thinking about when songwriting?
Yeah, I don't think that's something we're really thinking about because, I think one thing we will do occasionally is if we start diving into a song and we feel like we've been at it for too long, like kind of beating a dead horse thing, we will set it off to the side, work on some other songs, and always venture back to it, and then maybe it has more of a fresh mind, or we have a fresh idea that like, oh, you know what, we didn't use that bridge on this other one, it kind of fits perfectly, same key, we can use it on this bridge, you know what I mean, something like that.
That's a really awesome way of putting it. It seems like you're not too dictated, and there's a lot less pressure in songwriting as well, right?
Right.
Yep.
Because you want every song to be good, so it's hard to sit there and just grind at it. Because I think eventually you're just starting to put stuff on just to get the song done, rather than trying to perfect and make the song.
Yeah, and if you're working on something for too long, again, you don't want to beat a dead horse, as you said, but at the same time, you also want to make sure it's right. So I do envy artists who do have the ability to like put something down and come back to it later.
Right. I think and a lot of guys are like that too. They want to work on it till it's done. And, you know, it's like, stop, go have lunch, you know what I mean? Step away, get out of the studio or get out of the writing space and, you know, get your mind off it. And, you know, always, you know, even if you come back to it in a day or two, you know, you have laid down or you have the idea of what you wanted to do. And it's always great, I think, to come back to it and be like, yep, I got, you know, Zach's like, you know what, I have the bridge figured out, or I have the solo figured out, or, you know what I mean? It's always nice.
Yeah, of course. How do you know, though, when a song is done?
You know, that's a hard one. You know, Zach and I are big fans of Tool. So, you know, back in the day when we were writing songs, I mean, we'd have, you know, 6-minute songs and stuff like that. So we think the song is done, not necessarily trying to pigeonhole ourselves into, you know, like a 4-minute mark. But, you know, once we start approaching that, we got to start thinking of the idea of wrapping up how the song's going to be.
Yeah, especially because then you will fall into that beating a dead horse sort of thing that you said you're avoiding.
Yep, for sure.
Yep. Now, as somebody, you know, when I interviewed you on the Light the Torch show, that was my first time ever seeing you guys play live. I was really excited to see you on the All That Remains tour, because that venue, seeing you guys at that venue is like a match made in heaven. Sony Hall, that's a great venue.
Oh, we were so looking forward to that with, All That Remains, and hell yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, I'm a huge Chad Gray fan, so, I mean, definitely something that we wanted to do. And, you know, from the talks of it right now, it is going to happen again in the fall of 21. But, it was a major bummer letdown when that had to cancel.
Yeah, definitely. But, you know, when I see you live, like, it was a very different experience than simply just listening to, at the time, was just the EP. But, like, for you, is there maybe a similar energy into playing live as you do in your songwriting, or is it two completely separate arts altogether?
You know, it's almost trying to, like flipping a switch, you know, because for a long time I played bass and sang. So when we get into a live setting, you know, I almost have to flip the switch to where, like, you know, you're not just, you know, an instrumentalist, you know, singer. You're, you know, trying, you know, you got to be the front man. So I take inspirations from a lot of different people on doing that. And that's something, you know, I had to kind of teach myself, because for a long time, you know, I was stuck at the mic with the bass. And it's very cool, you know, and I'm still in the learning process of being that front man, but it's definitely coming along, and I absolutely love it.
Do you almost have to, like, practice the crowd interaction or the stage presence? Like, is there almost kind of like a choreography involved?
You know, I guess I haven't done that, you know, but I just try to play each crowd, you know, to what the vibe is in the room. And, you know, the only choreograph we kind of have as a band is just staying out of Will's way when he's doing his bass spins and stuff on Don't Close Your Eyes and a couple other songs. We just know, you know, and he gets mad too, because Zach will run over to this side of the stage and Will's like, get off my side of the stage. This is my song where I slam the hardest. And, oh man, we're always just, you know, it's being on stage is a good time, because we're always kind of, you know, poking fun and just having a good time up there.
I could tell that you guys are having fun at that show. And wow, why does everybody got to pick on the bass player? That's just so messed up.
Right. I don't know. Will always be the new guy, even though he's been here for a long time. We always got to poke fun at him, but he's a good sport about it, and he'll give it right back too. So we have a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun as a group, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, but I like, people want to make all those bass player jokes. I mean, have people listened? Do people know of Lemmy? Do people know of Peter Steele? Like, you wouldn't mess with those bassists.
Yeah, Ryan Martini, freaking Justin Chancellor, they're like awesome. You know what I mean? They're some of my biggest influences right there. And if I had to go back to any instrument, it would definitely be bass.
Yeah, because bass also has an emphasis on, you know, both rhythm and melody. So I think it's like, it's one of those things. If you mess up on guitar, and, you know, not to discredit anybody who plays guitar, but you could get away with botching a note here and there. With bass, you got to be note for note perfect.
Yep. You'll notice it. You'll see that low frequency, and it'll just, you know, everything will sound wonky if you're not, you know, hitting it just right.
Yep, and singing and playing bass. I'm going to call you the hard rock or the metal version of Sting.
All right, I'll take that.
Yeah.
We did, you know, back in the day when we were a three-piece, we used to cover Enema by Tool, and that was a hard song to play and sing.
Yeah, I don't envy you in your practice sessions. But the thing is about playing live is, and I was just interviewing Paul Bearer before, and I was been picking a lot of artists' brains about this, like being that when you're playing live, it is just taking the material and bringing it into a live setting, so there's like a replica element in there. But is there anything remotely creative about playing live?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. The replica, idea, because especially, when we first get done with an album or an EP, when we start playing it live, at least the first tour, we try to play it verbatim, because I know, it's from a listener standpoint. If I went to see whatever band, I want to hear the song when it first comes out, and then I think once you have a little bit of time with it and you've kind of toured, the United States a couple times, I think that's when you can start getting a little more creative and, adding some character and, elongating the end or the intro or whatever, so definitely when we come out swinging in 21, we're going to do the songs pretty well verbatim.
That's awesome. I think it really depends on the style. Like, I mean, if I went to a New York City hardcore show and everybody was static on stage the whole time, I would be kind of disappointed. But like with a band like Smashing Pumpkins, for example, if they were, moving around like they were a hardcore band, I would find that to be kind of a little weird.
Yeah, yep, I agree.
Yep. Now, would you almost kind of like look at this album now, and obviously, this album isn't even out yet, so, I'm probably asking this question way too soon, but do you think that, you finally made this full-length album? I'd imagine that you've learned a lot about yourself as an artist. Do you think that more doors opened up for the future of songwriting as well?
I do. Especially, we got to work with some really good people on this record that have been doing this for a long time. Like David Draiman from Disturbed. Morgan Rose actually drummed the track Inside, and it was really cool, diving in and I've never been in a band with anybody else besides Zach, so we kind of have our own little way of doing things, and it's nice to work with people that, we're all writing music, but they have their little quirks and ways they do it that you kind of pick up on, and it was really great, busting out of just the mine and Zach little circle of songwriting and work with people that have been doing it like that for so long. So I definitely learned a lot on this record. Yep.
And it's good to kind of break out of your comfort zone as well.
Right. And you realize, everybody's in the same goal, and they're here to write the best song and, the next number one, so it's really cool, working with guys that are in the same mindset, so it was very awesome. This whole album really has a lot of, highlight moments that, I can't believe that happened. So it was great.
Yeah. And that leads me to the outro before we go. Just obviously, thanks to a certain virus that I choose not to name on my outlet. Obviously, shows aren't happening at the moment, but I'd imagine when all this is over, we'll be seeing you guys on the road quite a bit, right? Can we maybe be expecting some live stream performances to hold us over or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because we're actually in the talks right now of doing a live stream October 23rd for the release of the album. So, and we've been in the talks where any place that is open and ready to take bands, I think at the beginning of 21, we're just going to hit the road and do a headline run and just get back out there and get live music spinning again.
Yeah. This will all eventually be over, and I've been telling people, when this is over, we will be entering the best era of music, I think, in history.
I think so, too. I think it's going to be, almost like the 80s where people are just hungry and ready for it, because, I thought, in 20... I thought it was going to be like a rock revolution. I thought, rock was going to be, back on like the big time, you know what I mean? So I think in 21, I think all these bands are going to come out swinging. I think we're going to see tours that, maybe we're like, oh man, I didn't see that happening, or I think it's just going to be amazing.
Yeah. And our thoughts are with the venues right now that are in need. Please help them out if you can. But thank you so much, Blake. Great to talk to you again. And again, congrats on this release. Great album, for sure.
Yep. Thank you, Alex, man. I'm really glad you liked the album, and it's always a pleasure.
Thank you. Everybody, we are here with Blake of Saul Rises Equals, coming out via Spine Farm Records October 23rd. Pick it up then when supplies last forever. We will see you next time on Heavy New York.